What's up, guys? Starting off this cold mid-March morning with snow. Good friend of mine hauls cars for a living, and he picked up a couple cool cars I thought you guys would like to see. I think he went down to Florida and picked these up for a guy here somewhat local. Not sure what he's doing with them. He's kind of a buyer and seller kind of guy, and he hauled these back for him. So they both look to be in pretty decent shape. This one's got all the stainless around the windows. Bunch of parts in both of them. Don't know what all they have. Looks like this has got the rear seat, front seat. Both look to be pretty solid cars. I mean, for what we're used to up here. Floor pan section. I know you guys out west and down south aren't used to stuff like we have it, but it looks like it used to be a copper car. I can't remember the name of that color. Not as well versed in the color names on these. But definitely both really decent cars. I wouldn't be afraid to start on one of these. But anyway, just wanted to throw these in there. Thought you guys would like to see them. So we'll get back in and get started on the Camaro. All right, welcome back, guys, to this will be part number 4. So, yep, still waiting on some parts, but up front here, I can't remember if I showed it up close or not, but this does have the Z28 style lip, and somebody busted this one at one point, probably hitting a parking block or coming out of a steep incline or something, but we got us a new one. So it should pretty much be a direct swap out, pretty simple. So we're gonna buzz this one off and get that new one tossed on. Just trying to take care of some simple stuff right now while we're waiting on other things to get here. That way when that stuff gets here, all that stuff's kind of taken care of. So yeah, let's go ahead and swap these things out. Okay, guys, since we're still waiting on parts, I went ahead and detailed the inner fender wells and the firewall back up. There's still a little bit more we'll do cleaning up wise, like wire loom. We're going to get rid of that plastic stuff and a couple other tidbits when we rebuild the front end and all that. But as for now, it's about as good as we're going to get, especially budget wise with what we're doing with this car for the client. So like I said, I'm waiting on parts, so I'm kind of at another standstill, unfortunately, but we do have a little bit left on this short block. So went ahead and pulled the bag off. I just zipped the bolts out for the timing cover. So we'll set you up here and let's see what we got behind this timing cover. I'm assuming someone's been there before, obviously, because the engine's 30 over, so I'm assuming it's probably got a double roller already. And then we're gonna pull the pan off as well. That way we can get an idea of what kind of shape it's in. I mean, this thing had good oil pressure, it ran good, but you know, it's good to inspect the bearings while we're there and see what we got. So we'll set you up here and let's pop this cover off, see what we got. Any guesses if we're gonna have a double roller or not? I kind of think we will, but we'll see. Whew, stuff's filthy. Can't wait to clean this all up so we can paint it. Anyway, let's see what we got. Phew, she's all siliconed up. Well, there we are. So this will be ready for cleanup. Tell you what, we'll do this. We'll knock this front seal out of it, and we'll get this bad boy ready to be cleaned up and put back on for paint. Yeah, she's definitely been siliconed on. Wow. Oh man. Well, that looks like it's in really good shape. Really good shape. So, that being said, I think what we'll do is flip this thing over and start getting this pan off. All right, looks pretty clean down in there. Haven't checked much yet. Haven't checked any rod side play or anything like that. Pickup screen looks pretty clean. Got a couple little goobers in there. Now, if you used here, get these things turned off here. Now, if you use too much silicone, it gets in places you don't necessarily want it. This being one of them, which luckily didn't go anywhere, but is literally attached to this front main bolt. So, I mean, can you imagine this thing getting in your pickup and clogging it up? I mean, obviously it wouldn't clog up the entire thing, but it's just not necessary to use that much silicone. So I'm going to kind of get this stuff all cleaned out, get some more of it on video. That way, if the client wants to see it, he can see how bad the silicone is. I mean, it's not bad. I've definitely seen way worse. But just kind of, yeah. I mean, there's more on the gasket material that I peeled off, which I didn't show. Definitely seen way worse, but just not necessary to be globbing it and having it fall in areas it shouldn't because you put so much of it on. But anyway, I'm going to continue kind of cleaning up, and we'll check back in on, I guess, what route I'm going and what we're going to get into next. I'll probably, I'm not really too sure because I don't want to be, wire wheeling or cleaning with this lower portion opened up. So I may be cleaning up the oil pan first and cleaning up the gasket surface for the pan gasket and getting this stuff sealed back up again. So we'll see. I'll check back in and let you guys know. Okay, guys, I know on Friday I took some more of the engine apart, got the cam out of it. I can't remember what I showed now. I should probably go back and look at my video, but I didn't. So there's the stock cam. I got the timing cover and the oil pan stripped down. Got a couple little areas to go back and hit before I get those primed. I cleaned up the mating surface for the timing cover on the block. Other than that, I haven't gone much further on the block itself because this still had the factory style plastic sleeve for the oil pump drive rod, which is right here. And we're gonna go with the replacement one with the steel. So I can't put the drive rod and the pump and screen and whatnot back in yet until we get that. So we got to get that coming. That way I can prime the oil pan up, get it and seal the bottom end back up, put the timing cover back on, that fancy stuff. Then once we get the heads back, I'll be able to bolt, torque those on. Then I can start cleaning on the block. I just don't want to be cleaning on the block and wire wheeling with the bottom end and all that stuff opened up. That's just a recipe for disaster. So got the block bagged off for now, and then I got those, like I said, cleaned up and ready for prime pretty much. So right now what I wanted to do while we're waiting on the heads is I got the lifters all hanging out in here. and we got some VR1 2050. So that's probably what we'll be running in the car. And I'm gonna get these lifters soaking so that way they can be full of oil when we drop those in the block and be ready to go. So that being said, we're gonna go ahead and pour this in there and be ready to move on to whatever I get into next, which I'm not even sure which route I'm going. All right, guys, got this stuff all primed. It's all in self-etch. I know that pan's a little beat up at the bottom there, but I'd rather have an original one. The thing doesn't leak and also obviously saves money. And I just personally prefer something original. It'll seal up a lot better than one of the aftermarket ones. But anyway, just nice to get this stuff self-etched first because this stuff actually embeds itself in the metal. And then what I'll do is when the time comes, we'll scuff that up and hit it with the high temp primer. Usually I use, it just depends on what they have. I'll show you guys whenever that time comes. Then after that, right after I prime it, I already have that motor coat paint ready and spray her down. So those things basically I wanted to get done so they're just not sitting around in bare steel. So they're done. And I just unbagged the engine, made my way over here, as you can see. And got to thinking, I don't know if I have any assembly lube for this new cam, so I'm gonna see if it come with any. If it did, I'll move forward and go ahead and get a little time lapse going of throwing that stuff together. And if it didn't, then I'll probably rebag it up and we'll get some assembly lube coming. That way we can get that new cam in and get the new timing chain and gears and such on. Okay guys, gonna jump in here real quick. Got the cam installed as you just saw in the time lapse, and now we are ready for the crank gear. So this has a few different options: 4 degrees retard, 4 degrees advanced, and standard 0. We're going to use standard 0. We're not doing anything crazy, obviously. So being that this is a early 327, early small block, the crankshaft snout is not drilled and threaded. It's just a press on. So we got some gear oil in the back, and I'm gonna heat it up, get this thing nice and warm, and then make sure I got my right keyway on 0, and slide her right on. So we're gonna get this thing heated up, pressed on, so we can move on getting the chain and cam gear on. All right, as you saw, we had this thing heated up to, hey, that's still hot a little bit, about 200 and some change, and that thing slid right on. No effort whatsoever. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and get everything else put on real quick. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy. And there we are. Got our timing marks lined up, as you can see here, if we can get it to focus. You can see the timing mark there on the crank and 6 o'clock position on the cam. So now we are ready to go. Just got to get these torqued to spec. And while we were waiting, went ahead and got the fuel pump block off plate installed. So that way that's out of the way. And then when I go to paint the engine, I'll obviously tape that off. So yeah, we'll go ahead and torque this thing down, or torque these cam bolts down to spec. And that's about as far as we can get right now until we get the heads back for the engine anyway. So yeah, here we go. All right, guys, we got the engine all bagged up until we get the heads back and can kind of move forward on it. And we still need to get that oil pump rod as well. So we finally got the suspension parts in last evening. So we got new stabilizer end link bushings, tie rod sleeves, inner tie rod ends, outer tie rod ends, lower ball joints, upper ball joints, upper control arm bushings, lower control arm bushings, and we've had the springs, but they're all ready to go. So basically what I'm going to do is get the old tie rods off, leave all of these as one unit. That way, when I get the new sleeves out and such, we can go off of these and get the alignment close to where it was. That way the car will at least semi-drive straight to where we can get it aligned, which will be convenient. So we'll go ahead and get those popped off, open up some of this stuff, and get those put on and knocked out. All right, guys, just checking in. Got a bunch done off camera. Just something I don't really want to take time to film. It's just a lengthy process anyway. But got both upper control arms out and got started on the driver's side. Got it completely blown apart. Got the old ball joint out. Got the new bolt-in style ready to go in. Here's some of the old bushings. Got the A-arm all prepped and ready for paint, cleaned up. And the two washers for the end caps and the main camber bar there, or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, just want to show you where I was at, getting this thing painted. And then while this one's painted, I'm going to be blowing the other one apart and then clean it up, get it in paint, and then be putting this one back together. And that way they're ready to go back on, and I can start on the springs, lower control arm, all that fancy stuff. So anyway, that's where we're at. So I'm going to keep on moving forward, and we'll check back in when we get these things finished up. Here's kind of the semi-finished product. Got the camber bars and new bushings put in. Just got them pressed in. Got the old ball joints popped out, which here they are here. So if you're ever doing these and they're the original style with the rivets, so these were definitely original. Quickest way to get these things out, in my opinion, is grind the rivet head off the top and use a carbide bit and grind your rivet head off the bottom and use you a little punch and knock them out. That way you don't have to drill them out. Because I started to drill them out, as you could tell there, and I went the other route, and it's way quicker, and they pop right out. So got our new ball joints here with all the hardware to bolt them in. So we'll go ahead and get these things assembled. All right, as you just saw in the time lapse, we got these things all finished up. Got those put back on as well, which I'm waiting on these washers to dry so I can finish this one out. But those are pretty much all done and dusted. And went ahead and pulled this side apart and got the spring out. And I never like to fight these things because these end links get so crusty, they don't want to come apart. So literally I just cut the thing in half and pulled the sleeves off of them and knocked them right out. Took like 3 minutes compared to fighting trying to get those nuts off. And used a new pair of these snap-on pliers that came out. There's the part number. These things have incredible grip. I mean, these sleeves were rusted onto the shafts themselves, and I was able to put these on there and yank them right off with just a set of these hand pliers without them even being vice grips. So they're as good as they say they are. Definitely worth the money. So anyway, that made it a lot quicker. Got the spring knocked out of it. I'm going to move over to the other side, get it popped out. That way we're ready to drop these lower control arms and do the bushings and paint them up and everything just like we did the tops. That way we're looking good and can look into getting these new springs installed after all that stuff's done. Okay, there we got this side all knocked out. So now we're ready to get both control arms out so we can replace ball joints and replace obviously the control arm bushings, get them all cleaned up and painted like the tops. And that way we'll be ready to start reassembly with all the fresh springs and get this thing knocked out. Okay, just giving a little update where I'm at. Just got the lower control arms out and went ahead and pressed the lower ball joints out. I didn't film it because these presses get sketchy, so I didn't want to be focused on filming. For some reason, I'm sure you guys can agree, any of the stuff on a car that usually you need a press for are the most awkward shapes, and you can't hardly press them without it being sketchy. Don't know why that is, but we got them out. It worked out. We got the right kind of spacers and all that fancy stuff. So got both those out, and I just need to get the actual control arm, the upper bushings out of those lower control arms, and then should be ready to clean them up and paint. All right, guys, it's Monday morning. Got the heater running, getting warmed up, and figured I'd give an update on where I'm at. Not very good at filming this stuff when I'm doing this kind of work, when I'm focused, but kind of show you where I'm at. I think I showed you, got the uppers done. Lowers are both painted and ready to go. So I'm gonna get the ball joints pressed in, and then we'll be ready to get the actual control arm bushings themselves pressed in. So we're gonna go over there to the press, start getting the stuff knocked out. All right, guys, checking back in. And I didn't film anything throwing this together, but I'll kind of show you where I'm at. Got the upper A-arm and lower A-arm installed. Ball joints are all in. Control arm bushings, all that's in. Bolts aren't fully tight, but I got it re-shimmed the way it was when it came out on each side. So that way it'll get us close when we get this thing aligned. So all fresh stuff. Everything's kind of cleaned up. And I'll finish doing the cross member when I get the car down and get all this finished. Got the new springs ready to go. Gonna get the shocks cleaned up to be put back in it. Got our spring compressor. But the reason I haven't got started on that yet is I had to paint the spindles. These are the new 2-inch drop spindles. So that way they don't start rusting, obviously. And then I got those pulled off the old drums, the tie rod pickup points. So those are all painted and drying. And it's some heavy duty stuff, so it takes about 24 hours to dry. So that's pretty much where I'm at, and I'm gonna leave the video off here, and that way the whole next video will be installing the new springs as well as the spindles and the Willwood disc brake kit. So that video alone will probably be all about getting those in and doing that disc brake conversion up front here, similar to the video we did on the Nova, doing the Willwoods up front and everything. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. I haven't had as much of the work put in this one because it's just hard to film while doing all this stuff. And actually the ball joints, we actually took into a friend of ours that has a good ball joint press, and I had him do those because it was just a nightmare trying to rig up the A-arm and get those pressed in. So anyway, that's why I didn't really film much of this stuff that I was doing, but I'll be filming a lot more when we get this, get these springs put back in and get this Willwood stuff all put back on. So look forward to that next video. That ought to be pretty good. And other than that, hopefully we'll have some 55 content soon because it should be coming up here to get wired. And the Nomad probably won't come back into play until this Camaro's done, which will be about another few weeks. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.